Hi, today I'm bringing you this drag look on my friend Duarte. The goal of this video is to explore the concept of facial feminization, and I'm going to try and show you what we can do with makeup to sort of cheat the territory that belongs to each feature. So after cleaning up Duarte's skin with some micellar water, I'm going to moisturize his skin with Studio Moisture Cream. When doing full coverage looks, I really like spreading out the moisturizer with the actual wedge sponge. I think it makes it a better tool because it's going to make everything glide on easier. It's also really going to help with the blending. I'm going to create a beard cover for Duarte, so I'm going to use an orange concealer to make up for the lack of saturation that he has around his beard area. And I'm going to mix this with a concealer that's too light for him, and that's simply because pure orange is darker than Duarte's skin tone. If you're new to color correction and you find it confusing, I made a video just for you. So I'm going to stipple this on with a natural brush. I love using natural brushes for creams. I think it makes them act like powders without compromising the creamy texture. And that means that if you make a mistake with the cream, you can just blend it away. Sometimes you can't do that with a powder. Here I'm just tapping the beard cover with a sponge just to make sure it's seamless. Now I'm breaking the rules here. I'm going to powder this before I add another layer of foundation. My intention in doing this is to really create another layer of makeup that I can build upon without mixing it into the beard cover, rather building on the beard cover. So now onto the brow block. First thing we need to do is remove any oils from Duarte's brows, which would keep the glue from sticking down the hairs. And I'm just using rubbing alcohol for this. Now here comes the glue stick, and I'm doing this in a vertical motion. So while this glue is still sort of wet, I'm going to comb the hairs up with a spoolie. You may have to go back with the glue stick to make sure you got all the hairs. Then I'm going to smooth it out with my finger in some water. So I just let that dry slightly while I do the other brow. And now I'm adding another layer of glue. And again, smoothing it out. Now I'm taking a beauty blender and I'm really packing on a very large amount of powder. The goal of this is to smush down that brow as hard as you can so it looks really flat without having that beauty blender stick to the glue. There isn't really a limit of how many layers of glue you can add. In fact, by looking at the result of this job, I should have added more layers. Smoothing it out with some water. And powdering again. Once you're happy with that, and I thought I was, we're going to do some color correcting. Since we're doing this for demonstrational purposes, and Duarte isn't going to perform or anything like that, I'm going to use some aqua color because it's really easy to remove afterwards. So I'm stippling that on with a fluffy brush, and this orange is really going to counteract that grayish cast from the residual brow color. Onto concealer, we're going to use something very creamy. You can also use a liquid that you trust, and you can't be skimpy on this, so very generous, and we're going to press that into the brow. Powdering like so. And removing the excess. To make sure we have even more coverage, we're going to use a powder foundation over this. This is MAC Studio Fix powder. Now whereas this does look covered, it looks very messy, so we're going to clean it up with some micellar water. And as we do this, we can sort of start to get an idea of what shape we want for our eyebrows. We're going to sketch out this face with a creamy blendable brown pencil. So we're going to start by drawing out the crease of the eye, knowing that on the inner part this also marks the beginning of the nose. We're also going to mark the tip of the nose and the top ledge of the lips. Lip enlargement and drag is not only ornamental, it's also important to make sure the distance between the top lip and the nose is smaller, because that's a very feminizing quality. A smaller distance between the top lip and the nose, and also between the bottom lip and the chin. I like to start at the center so I can get a notion of the symmetry and what the new height of the top lip is going to do to the face. As I do this, it's important to keep looking at Duarte straight on, because we are creating new anatomy here and ignoring his natural anatomy. Now, a prominent lower lip is also very masculine, so the illusion of a receding chin and receding bottom lip can really help feminize your face. Now, doing this is fairly easy. It means the corners of your bottom lip are going to be a bit further towards the center of your lip, almost like a geisha. Now I'm sketching out the brows. You don't have to be too careful about this. You're going to blend it all in anyway. Now, since this is a very structured look, you're going to start out with the lighter colors. So I'm working this light color all around the under eye and the sides of the nose. I'm going to take it in a tiny bit further in than I would usually, and the point of this is to simulate that there is more area that belongs to the cheeks, and the nose actually only starts to raise up from the face once you get to this point. Here we're following the same line of thought with the eyes, so there's a part of the nose that we decided that will actually belong to the eye here. So we're adding light color there as well. The same light color goes on the forehead, creating the illusion of a rounder forehead. We're not going to focus too much on the nose here, we're just going to add a very loosely applied highlight, because we are going to make a very strong highlight later on in the process. Highlight on the chin goes way further up than you would usually think, so we can fill the bottom of the chin with shadow, simulating a smaller chin. We're also going to fake a smile here by illuminating the corners of the mouth. And we're going to start to add shadow with a very dark color indeed. We're going to start with the area that goes from the crease into the nose. Very small circular motions and a small brush. Now don't be afraid to blend out the eyebrow. A soft brow looks beautiful. Now with a flat natural brush, we're going to contour around the cheeks, the jawline, blending that down, and the forehead. We can leave these really harsh because we are going to blend it out with the base color. This is a great technique for full coverage looks because you're adding all the light and dark first, and all the coverage comes afterwards. We're going to deepen the contour near the hairline even further. And at this point, with such a high contrast between light and dark, color matching is really a matter of taste. And here comes the base color. I'm going to warm the product up on my palette, and I'm going to stamp it out the whole face through. You don't have to blend out the area in the eye too much because we're going to add drama there, not reduce it. Now I'm coming back to what I said before about the nose, and I'm going to really emphasize the center of the forehead highlight as well as this nose highlight, which I'm going to redo with a very thin brush. You don't want to blend it out too much, so I'm just tapping it with my finger. Now I'm ironing out these creases under the eyes before setting everything with a sponge and this pink powder. I'm leaving a little gap under the eyes for the eyeshadows to stick to. And we're placing this powder on areas that we want to remain absolutely light. So obviously under the eyes, taking it in towards this area near the nose, the center of the forehead, and the chin. So what I'm doing now is with this brush, I'm blending away the edges of these 100% set areas, so we can have a sort of intermediate level of stickiness on the face, which is this territory where we feather the powder, before getting to this absolutely sticky, unset base. If there's any area that you want to leave harsh, for example, we're doing a very harsh contour here, you can just add this powder without blending it. So this technique really helps us control, once we're onto the blush and powder contour part, which part of it sticks and which part of it doesn't. And this is just a really great technique to get a seamless blend with everything. This also means you can use a really big brush to add the powder contour, because this time it's not going to be the size of the brush that dictates where the powder goes, but rather the skin decides on how much powder it can receive. The exception for this is this eye to nose area, for which I'm using a smaller brush. So still following the same line of thought, I'm blending the eye crease into the nose contour. I'm also going to give a little touch to the brow to get that blended look. The same color is going onto the lips to blend them out slightly. And under the tip of the nose. Here we're turning a prominence into an indentation, so we can fake a new prominence above that. So now onto the eyes. The Studio Fix powder we used earlier is actually going to serve as a matte beige eyeshadow. We're going to apply that to the center of the lid. Be mindful to keep it in the center only. You don't want to bring this too far out, otherwise the other eyeshadows that we're going to apply there won't stick. Back to the pencil we used earlier, we're going to sketch in a new lash line. You can be as messy as you want with this as long as you're using a pencil that's very easy to blend. We're going to take this into the inner corner as well, and make sure everything connects. This may look like a very weird shape when the eyes are closed, but what's important is that when Duarte opens his eyes, we get the shape that we want. I'm blending this out loosely and adding any touch-ups if needed. So now we're going into our first dark eyeshadow. I'm using Camel by Bobbi Brown. This is one of my favorite yellow browns. We're going to concentrate this along the lash line, especially on the outer corner, and then bringing it up into this new crease we created. Then we're going in with this very dark brown, and again we're concentrating this along the lash line, giving a touch of this inner corner. Then I'm taking a slightly wider but still very flat brush to give a little touch of the crease. Now I'm going to do some gel eyeliner, starting with this inner corner, taking it along the lash line, and bringing it out. Once I'm happy with that, with the eyes open, I'm going to create the shape that I like with this eyeliner. This is actually quite a conservative eyeliner for a drag queen. Very oftentimes, the eyeliner tends to occupy the whole mobile lid. To make the eyes look a little bit more awake, I'm going to use a beige pencil on the inner rim. Now, since I want the bottom part of the eye quite smoky, I'm going to do the step back process of what we did on the top. So I'm starting with the darkest brown. I'm going to leave it open out here. Then I'm going onto the camel color, and then the contour color we used first, and this is that very light Studio Fix powder. Sorry about the lack of focus here, so I'm going to use a bottom lash and I'm going to divide it into 3 parts. This definitely has to be done with the clear glue rather than the black glue, otherwise it's going to be hell if you make a mistake. On the top I'm going to start with some Ardell Demi Wispies. Now I'm going to stack in another pair of eyelashes. These are from Primark. I'm actually going to do something quite naughty, and I'm going to cut them in half a little bit off center so I can stack them even better. So this is the longer part that we cut. The beauty about stacking eyelashes is that they allow you to place them going up, following the eyeliner. And the shortest part that has a longer eyelashes goes on the very end of the eye. Now I'm going to add a very full coat of mascara, starting with the bottom eyelashes, and I am sort of touching the skin as I go. Before I can say I'm done with the eyebrows, I'm just going to add a little touch of eyeshadow, sort of mimicking a few hairs. This is a random lip brush. I do want them to look soft and not hard. For blush, I'm going to start with this warm, very peachy, bright blush, before moving on to an even brighter blush. This is like a fuchsia. Just like I use 2 tones of blush, I'm also going to use 2 tones of highlighter. So the lightest highlighter is actually going to be this off-white shimmering eyeshadow, and I'm going to use this along the nose, in the inner corners of the eyes, and I'm going to add a little spotlight just under the brow. For the cheeks, I'm going to use a traditional highlighter, something that's less ashy, so it's sort of like a champagne color. And remember to use a pretty small brush when doing this. Remember that these transformational looks have to look pretty matte, since matte textures hide the real planes of your face, whereas a very shimmering face will just reveal the real high points. We're trying to hide them to simulate new ones, so keep that highlight to a small area. After placing some of that in the center of the eyelid as well, we're going to move on to the lips. This is a matte liquid lipstick by Sephora, it's number 41, and we're going to try and buff that in rather than lacquer it on. To finish the look, we're going to use a creamy lipstick. This is Costa Chic by MAC, and it's a very bright coral color. We're patting that onto the very center of the lips. And guys, we are done. Now take a look at Duarte with all the extras. Thanks for watching.